Oh, sucky now. Hell yeah. I know my dogs are watching. And if you ain't, I know you will be. And if you are watching and you ain't my dog yet, you will be. And my name is Swede, and I'm going to help you get busy living. Thanks for joining us on the Get Busy Living podcast. We're 55 months in a row on at least one epic adventure every single month. And this podcast here, we're just here to tell you about it. Tonight, it's about the key to not letting our egos get in the way. But first, since nothing is worth having if it ain't worth sharing, please help me welcome to the stage the one and only, an entrepreneur out of Los Angeles, the author and co-star of unblogyourself.com. One of my all-time favorite humans, the dazzling Diana D-Rex X-Time. I can always hear you laughing, and that makes me laugh too.
Well, you start laughing, then I start laughing, and I'm not muted. Well, hello, everybody. Happy to be here once again. Always happy to be here with you, Swede. This is a great topic today because I think it's something that we'll all struggle with at some points. You know, as small as like thinking that you're right or being in an argument and wanting to be right all the time. And then as big as, I don't know, being a world leader starting wars. Like ego messes stuff up.
Yeah. Can you and think about, I mean, now that you mentioned the whole wars thing, wow. The fact that it's, I mean, maybe it's not ego is such a big deal. Maybe it's that some people don't value life. And so to them, you know, it's not about ego being so big. It's just about life being so small. And because, I mean, I can't imagine, first of all, I mean, I've been mad enough to punch people in the face. I've done that a whole bunch of times in my life. I can't imagine being so mad that I want to kill somebody. I cannot imagine that. Imagine, and that's the only thing I can think of that would make me want to do it is being mad. The only thing that I think that can put me over that edge, like, is if you mess with my daughter. You know, other than that, like, nothing is worth that.
I mean,
there are people out there just dropping bombs.
Thing. That's a pretty insane thing to actually want to kill another human being. But I feel like maybe there's something else with people who have no problem dropping bombs. They see some sort of bigger picture that's about something else rather than me and you, people's children, people's mothers, fathers, you know, they don't think like that. And I'm not sure if it's ego, but I mean, some of it must be like, I am the one to bring order to all of this. I see the big picture. It has to be stemming from ego as well. You know, what a strange feeling.
Imagine when you're surveying the next plot you're going to buy, you know, and you're like, you know, I want to build a house right there. And you walk up and you don't see the bird's nest and the anthills. You just see your house, you know, and it's got to be something like that because, because you could just go up and just kick the ants aside and step on them, you know, and like some people's egos are so massive that they just look at everybody around them like they're ants and they just see past everything. I mean, and imagine how hard that is to make connections with people when you don't even have respect for them to the point where you wouldn't be afraid to just kick them aside and stomp on them. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't really know what it would take for someone to become like that, where other beings, other humans become just like objects.
There's no value.
I think that's a sociopath right there. And there certainly are a lot of sociopaths in politics. And you know what? I don't want to get into politics, but I do want to say hello to anybody who's here. And if you are here, please say hello in the comments. We're going to be talking all about how ego can mess you up and what you can do about it today. And it's a really interesting topic for me. I just find people fascinating.
And how to overcome it, you know, what's like the antidote to having a huge ego. And, you know, one of my favorite sayings that I heard somebody else say live and in person that really like punched me because I didn't think of it in this way. I know I've said it before to you. I know I've said it before on the show, but having gratitude be the enemy of fear. that was an anecdote that really, really got me. What up, Sam? In the house. My man Phil's in the house. Hey, girl. Hey. Lori Colonna is in the house. We got some people on here that I really, really got so much love for, and I'm looking forward to what the future brings, because we're going to get busy living. And this podcast is just the beginning, because once we start really having the reach and having the focus that this type of thing deserves, and we start not just messing around piddling like we are now, like, didn't you work your tail off today? I know I've been working my tail off today, and it had nothing to do with this podcast. So like we have lives outside of this, but once we focus with this and are able to take it to where it deserves to go, I mean, I'm going to be crossing paths with every single one of you guys that I see in the comment section today. But what I was talking about is about gratitude being the enemy of fear. And I hadn't thought about that before, but since I heard that, it hit me. And now, you know what? I'm nearly fearless, because anytime I start to become afraid, I just count my blessings. You know what I mean? And so that's what I mean by this being the antidote, to your ego, because egos can kill and hurt you and pull you down, and you can live your entire life without ever even realizing that that's what was pulling you down. Just like fear. So many of us, have things in our lives that we want, and we don't have them, and we don't even realize that it's the fear that's holding us back. So it's like, unless you really put it into perspective and identify it, you don't know that it's a problem, and then you might not even know how to overcome it. So I know that you have a lot to say about egos getting in the way, and I think I might have an idea of how to overcome that for these people.
Well, I think, I recognize where my own ego was getting in my own way when I was younger. And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm great now. And I mean, don't people have to have a certain amount of ego to start a podcast and think that people want to listen to them every week? Okay.
Sure.
Certain amount of ego is good, because now we're sitting here talking about really wonderful things with wonderful people. And if we didn't have that sense of self and confidence, then this wouldn't be happening. So I would like to say that a certain amount of ego is needed. I don't really know where the line is where it's too much or in the wrong direction. But, when I was younger, I would say I had certain role models that kind of displayed a certain sense of machismo or being the big man, and that was who I was looking up to. And that often came with putting others down, or being not so nice to people, or kind of like shutting yourself down in some aspects emotionally. You're not sharing emotionally. And I was like this for a very long time. And I know that you would fight me on this, but I was like this all through high school, well into college, before I realized that this was holding me back from having deeper friendships and connections with people. There were some people that actually didn't like me. And I mean, it's not like I need everybody to like me, but sometimes when people don't like you, you have to ask yourself, well, am I being a jerk? And I was. And once
I would fight you on that, because
I
I would fight you on that only because I never picked up on jerk or ego from you in our time. But I did know that we were distracted in other directions, like we kind of crossed paths, like we had great friendship, just because I think we just have the types of personalities that, that click for each other. But like you were always looking to go that direction, and I was always looking to go that direction, so maybe if you had an ego that I didn't pick up on it. I think it's hard to say that you knew me or you went to school with me and not to think that fucking guy has an ego.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think as a teenager and a young person, you're always pushing to find your way in the world. And I just want to very quickly acknowledge that everybody's saying a happy early birthday to you, Swede. And I want to say also happy birthday to you. This is very exciting. It is tomorrow. And how many times have you turned 21 so far? We can't count.
More than 21. So you know what? Now, being that it's more than 21 times that I've been 21, I think you guys can get off my jock about saying I'm 21, because I've been 21 a whole bunch of times since I'm an adult. I think I should be able to say I'm 21.
Yeah, I mean, you've committed. that's a long commitment. You should be respected for that. When people
Yeah.
commit that hard to something, you got to go, well, that's something.
My child and I talked so much about my 21st birthday and her 21st birthday. And she's like, I turned 21. You're not going to be able to say that anymore. And I was like, why not? Man, I was so much looking forward to celebrating her 21st birthday with her and being able to like still make that claim. But you know what? Tragedy struck. You know where I was on her 21st birthday?
Where?
At the very moment that she was 21, turning 21, I was getting my spinal cord restabilized.
Oh, God.
The same
you messed
day,
that one up.
December 26th, 2017.
You did that wrong. You got that one wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're all glad you got your spinal cord fixed, but that's kind of crappy. I think you're going to have to make that up to her.
Well, thank you guys for the 40th birthdays, 60s babies. Speak your piece. Who are you? I appreciate the happy birthday almost, but you know they're coming in there all cryptic on YouTube and not telling me who you are. That makes it a little bit difficult. And speaking of which, while you guys are on YouTube, do me a favor, do us a favor, do all of us a favor. All of you that are going to get busy living with us eventually when this thing blows up, it's going to be because people were subscribing to this channel and clicking that notification button. And you know what? If you don't have the YouTube app on your phone, you're doing it wrong. Because YouTube is where it's at, man. I'm telling you. Like I didn't even know that YouTube was the thing until you and Lyric, recommended this podcasting thing, and then I started to realize that it was a big deal. But even then, I wasn't using it as a search engine. But then it dawned on me every time I search for something, I always click on the YouTube links because the videos are always better than reading, right? So now I don't even go to Google half the time. I just go straight to YouTube if I'm going to search for something, right? So if you don't have the YouTube app, get it. And put your notifications on so that when the things that happen are going on that you want to be a part of, you can be notified. That's how it works.
60s baby's fairy godmother.
FGM's in the house. What's up, girl?
Hey, thanks for solving that mystery.
That's awesome. It's awesome. Glad to have you, Mama. Miss your face. And by the way, we're heating up the pool. So you guys are due. Grab Aunt Mags and Uncle Rich and come on over. And Summer's in the house. Chet's in the house. Sister Kelly. By the way, D-Rex, if you don't know, Kelly Podolsky is my sister. She's been here a time or two. And I can't wait for you guys to hang out because your personalities are going to make sparks. And I'm not talking about the kind of sparks like when rocks, hit other rocks. I'm talking about, like when something that's flammable and something that's a spark.
Okay.
Maybe
I hope
she's quite flammable, man. She's a trip. My sister's a trip.
Okay.
I love her to death.
Well, you know what? I don't doubt that one bit. I'm looking forward to meeting her. And thank you guys for being here. I see all these people saying hello, and this is making me so happy. I'm just gonna.
So now, listen, we are talking about egos, and I know that it was very much a tragedy that I wasn't able to spend Lyric's 21st birthday with her, because for us to turn 21 together would have been great, or be 21 together. But she did come out for my birthday after her 21st birthday. She came to Malaysia to visit me. That was awesome. But I mean, think about, do you think, because some people aren't really clear on what ego is. So how did ego play a part in me chasing that monkey?
That's a good question.
Do tell, D-Rex. Do tell.
Oh gosh, you're expecting an answer? I think that you were like, oh, that monkey thinks he's going to get my favorite thing in the world. I'm going to show him. I mean, is there more to it than that?
Yeah.
I mean, you did say that you knew that a Steelers hat was going to be hard to replace. That was part of it.
To be honest, when the hat disappeared off my head, it wasn't so much I got to get that hat. It was more, oh, hell no, not my hat.
Not a monkey.
Yeah, I had told so many people. Now, I operated a guest house in Bali for a while there. And I had, at our peak, we had 6 other rooms aside from the rooms that we occupied, as far as me and Micah and Elmo. So, the most we ever had in one room was 3. Most of the time it was 2. So at any given time, I had between 10 and 15 people, and we were always booked. So at any given time, I had between 10 or 15 guests at the house, and our average stay was 3 to 4 nights, although we did have people stay for several weeks and several months. But giving tours of the house regularly was my deal. And I can't tell you how many times when I met people, if I heard that they just arrived in Bali, I would let them know not to fuck with the monkeys. Like there's other things that they'll pick up on the way, but I always felt it was my duty to tell them, don't play with the monkeys. They're not your friends. I've had so many girls come back to the house crying about their phone or their purse or their wallet or the shades or their hat or whatever. And so when it got to the point where I'd been gallivanting around Asia for a while, and I had never had anything of mine stolen. And so when the day came when something did get snatched, I felt like I had told too many people not to toy with the monkeys, to let my hat get away. And the thing is that not only was it that like not your little puny ass monkey's not going to take my hat, but I just was fearless about going up on a roof. Like, you know how many times I've jumped out of planes and not cared? How many times I've jumped off of bridges and not cared? You know how many times I've jumped in general and not cared? I mean, my life, I definitely have more than 9 lives. For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going through the footage the other day. So Jay Sam's in the house. I was going through the footage the other day, trying to figure out what I was going to send to him. And I saw a video of me being in downtown Santa Fe or Albuquerque, and I was on the interstate going through the city on my way towards Santa Fe, on my way back to Pennsylvania, and I was trying to film while driving. And my car luckily does drive itself pretty well, but don't get me wrong, I don't let it drive itself very often. But I was trying to film while driving, and I almost killed myself. And like, I've got footage of it. Like, I mean, the footage is only like the camera falling and me being like panicking, but I tried to be quiet because I knew I was filming. So I tried not to be like, oh my God, I'm going to die. But it was totally like that. I came 1 inch of my life.
So you still have that invincibility problem.
Yeah. Apparently I do, because I make risky decisions on a regular basis. And so does that, like, how much does that willingness to take risks, how much is that fed by ego, or how much, it's kind of like a catch-22, or, what do you call it when you're trying to describe a term, but you can't describe it without using the term. Like I watched recently that documentary, What is a Woman? And don't even get me started on that.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, it will piss you off. It pissed me off. Okay. I wanted to punch people in the face over that. The fact that there are people out there that are indoctrinating our children and allowing and feeding into children's insecurities, because we all naturally are insecure as teenagers, right? We all don't really know what our identity is. And so when you're grasping and you're just like laying in your bed and you're pissed off and like not sure how to figure it out because you don't have your purpose, or you don't know what you want to do with yourself, or you got a pimple, or whatever, a bad hair day. When you're a teenager, it's like, it's so easy for you to just like,
it's the end of the world.
Resort to whatever means are there, and luckily for us, all we could do when we were teenagers, we didn't have the world at our fingertips as far as cell phones. We couldn't even call long distance when we were in high school, right? So, so like we didn't have like all of these like thoughts being placed in our brains, but now there are, because if you have problems, you can just go online and you can connect to, the one person in your town of 10,000 that feels the same way you do, and it makes you feel like the whole world feels that way. And so this issue that the movie What is a Woman is about the very real growing population of people that are having gender identity issues and gender dysphoria, but he's asking people that are promoting this problem rather than trying to, de-emphasize it, and not to invalidate it, but to say, look, calm down. You're just a teenager. We all have, we've all been through that, but they've asked people, he's asking all these professionals, he even goes to the women's rights parade and asks people to define what a woman is. And they can't do it because they're so in their heads about all of the sensitivities that they can't describe what a woman is without using the word woman. Where those of us that are on the rational, dare I say, traditional set of values that says a woman is an adult human female, pretty simply defined. But when you're pulling into that discussion, the number of people that don't feel like the sex that they were born with, as far as chromosomes wise, they don't feel that way, and that, you know, that's something that is growing more and more. And I didn't make my mind up that I was going to bring this up, but you know what? This is actually important. Okay, so look,
Okay.
there's a documentary called The Great Invasion that I watched because of one of my nutrition courses wanted us to be aware of how hormones affect us. And so this documentary talks about how there are molecules that are evergreen, meaning that they don't biodegrade. And once we make them, they didn't exist until humans were around and started using chemistry. But once we make them, they don't break down naturally in nature. So if you imagine, I'm not talking about like sawdust doesn't break down. I'm talking about on a molecular level where it doesn't interact with anything. Once it's that size, it's that size. And once it's that shape, it's that shape. Well, the problem is these molecules look just like hormones, but they're not organic molecules. So they don't interact with our body like an organic molecule would, but they are the same shape. And so they hijack where our hormones fit inside our body, and so what hormones do is they're messenger molecules, right? So our body has our nervous system, which is like electrical messages, and then it has our endocrine system, which is a different type of system that sends messages throughout our bodies. And that's what hormones do. It tells our body how to feel and how to act and what to do as far as signals. And so these molecules that are being that we haven't even slowed down creating since pretty much, you know, the 20th century is about when we started being able to manufacture these molecules. And so they get into our system, and at the stage in our development, when our fetuses are developing, at this stage, it's very early and it's very short-lived. But at this stage is when all of our fetuses are created women. Or
I think one thing you didn't mention is that these molecules are not just being created willy-nilly. These are in plastics, right?
Yeah, it's plastic.
Okay.
Essentially, that's the broad central term of it, is plastic.
I mean, we're not just like making molecules and throwing them out there. I'm saying like everything we receive is wrapped in plastic, really.
Everything has these molecules that we make them so that they won't degrade because we want them. They're useful like that. But the unfortunate thing is that every time you have a bottle of water and you leave it in your car and it warms up, some of them plastic molecules that are smaller than our brains can even fathom break off into the water. And if you drink it, it's very possible that instead of it being urinated out, that it accumulates. It's not possible. It is. And so what's happening is when we have children, these molecules are in our bodies. So when our sperm and eggs get together, it's very possible that one of those molecules or one of those cells, either the sperm cell or the egg cell, has these plastics in them. And then boom, what happens is at the stage when the fetus is developing, these molecules penetrate that signaling system, and where the signal to become a boy happens, and then the ongoing signaling over the course of the next week, I think it's 2 weeks, something like that, where this whole process happens, where the child has completely been programmed to be a boy. It doesn't get those signals, so the child only gets half of the number of signals that it's supposed to get, and so it doesn't fully develop into a boy. And Man, just talking about it, I can just imagine if you're one of the humans that are alive right now that is the that is the result of this, and you're hearing this, and you might consider if this might be you because you've been feeling less masculine than your peers. And man, my heart goes out to you. My heart goes out because there's a lot of them, a lot of you, and I feel for you. And that is one of, there are other things that can and do contribute to gender dysphoria, but this one is something that we know for sure is happening. It's happening in other animals on the planet, which is kind of different than the other things that you and I usually talk about when we're talking about, getting busy living and paying attention to your health. Like most of the stuff we talk about is diet related, but these things, we can't control it. There's so much plastic in our environments now that there's no way to measure it. I mean, we can measure it, but there's no way to stop it. It's not like stop eating those kinds of foods, because what are we going to do? Look, I'm looking around this room, and it is loaded with stuff that has these evergreen molecules in it that are potential endocrine hijackers. And so it's the number of humans that are being born with. So before these types of interferences existed, we were born male and woman, and the things that can put you on the spectrum of that were so extremely rare that just about all of us are born fully one or fully the other. But since we started putting these molecules into the environment, there's such a large number of us that are somewhere on the spectrum rather than being fully one or the other. And the problem is that more and more humans are being born every day. And we have evidence of birds and of squirrels and of other animals that live in harmony with humans that are ingesting these molecules as well and are also becoming infertile. And so all that does, infertility isn't good for anything. It isn't good for anyone, because all it does is you're alive and you're still using resources, but then you just can't procreate. And that's what's happening. More and more and more humans are being born without this ability. And the problem with that is that you can't just, first of all, we can't outcast them. They deserve their opportunities in life just like anybody else. They're humans. They just are on a spectrum maybe between male and woman or male and female. And so they deserve every opportunity. They do not deserve to be shunned. They do not deserve to be marginalized. It's not like, some people look down their nose at heterosexuality or homosexuality. This is not that. It's completely different. It's related because it involves sexuality, but it's nothing like that.
I would like to pose a thought here. So I know we were talking about ego, and then we took a little side trip.
As we always do.
But I do feel like there's something related here. So you know how it's so difficult to talk about this subject because the emotions run high on either side. And I don't feel like I can't speak on any transgender topic. I mean, just I have no experience with people who are. And I don't feel like I have real knowledge, and this platform is not where I would ever try to speak on it. But what really bothers me is that we can't have a rational conversation about it without people's egos getting in the way and emotions flying out of control and everybody yelling at each other. Like, it would be wonderful if we could just look at the facts, like the plastics and the hormones and acceptance and all of these things without two people yelling at each other from opposite ends. It would be nice if we could sit down and deal with facts, but instead we have people's egos and they want to be right on either side, but the answer is somewhere in here. And that's one way egos are preventing this topic from actually moving forward in a productive way.
Absolutely. And you know what another thing is, and let's not don't let me get too far away from the ego thing, but here's another fact that's stopping.
I can't do anything about what you do. Let's be clear.
You're better than anyone at pulling me back. Even though it's not an easy thing, you make it look easy. But seriously, when it comes to facing the truth that we know that we can't stop it, we can't prevent it. The problem is that we're not even talking about it. How do you tell people? And I decided to talk about this. I've thought about not talking about it. How do you tell people that that's their issue? Or that, why do you tell other people that, look, we have no way of knowing how much plastic is in our system or how to prevent it from hijacking the process. So your child is at risk. Every child that's born right now is at risk. How do you tell people that? Well, apparently you don't, because the government knows about this. And rather than telling us that this is the problem and having a concerted kind of response to it that can actually address it, they're preparing us for the truth of it. For, hey, get ready, because more and more people are going to be having these feelings like they feel like, or they're supposed to feel like a boy but they're not, or they're supposed to feel like a girl but they don't. And there's, rather than addressing it and calling it what it is, they're coming in the back door and trying to massage the society's ego, if you will, so that we just are accepting them, rather than as they're people too, but not giving them some sort of a scarlet letter. I understand why it's not the best thing to do to tell everyone that, but I also understand why it's not the best way to go about ignoring it and letting them just fend for themselves. And the worst way that it's manifesting is that in schools now, there's actually legislation being passed, and there's actually school districts now in places on the planet, you're close to one of them, where when children come up with this, because the government acknowledges that these children are not just infants right now, they're adults now. So there's more and more children and humans that are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old that are having these real issues and are in school and understand, and like, then they have access to the internet and they can learn that they're not the only one, and all these remedies that are happening, children proposing remedies to children. And when they come to school, and the teachers aren't even allowed to tell their parents that their children are questioning that. And now that we've got these puberty blockers that are making it so that you can stop the progression of your genitalia from growing. And we've got surgeries that are happening now. And the government knows that this is happening. They know that these are the reasons why, because of these hormone blockers. And rather than addressing it head on, they're allowing these things to these places to grow and to kind of be havens for folks that have this issue to go to, and it's confusing the people that don't know about it and that don't have to deal with it. And it's making asses of the people that don't understand it, and that it's giving people opportunities to be insensitive. It's giving opportunities for people to overreact, and it's just causing more division. And oh man, it's such a symptom of society that division only makes the rich people richer. It only puts more distance between us and the solution, because the majority of us is where the problems lie, within the majority, and we don't have the ability to stop it because we're not focusing on the real problem. They're just allowing us to argue amongst each other about all kinds of other things that are really insignificant. And
so I wonder,
really
if it's actually, I wonder if it's in the government's interest to puff up our egos and make us all feel like we're very special and that our ideas are correct, because it keeps us fighting with each other, right? And you know what I was thinking about, like, okay, we haven't really set any kind of definition of ego, right? Like, do you have a definition? Like, do you have a way that you think about ego?
I thought about like reading up and doing some real ego research, but
But you didn't.
I didn't want to punch myself in the face. No, but what is it? It's, well, first of all, in a very basic way of thinking of it, it's how you feel about yourself. And when we often talk about ego, we're referring to overinflated egos, right? We all have an ego. Our ego is what we believe is it's our persona. It's the usness about our existence. It's our way of handling our lives in placing ourselves amongst everyone else and how we compare ourselves to everyone else. So the inflated egos, or the aspects of our egos that are inflated that causes problems, is when we have a misconception about how important we are compared to how important other people are. And so when we think that we're a bigger deal than we are, then it just causes us to misjudge the magnitude of certain aspects in our lives. When we think that we're more important than other people, or less important, because there's just as big of a problem, maybe not just as big, but there's just as many people who have underinflated egos, that they don't.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you, especially not with my big face here. But I was just going to say that I think my favorite ego reset that everybody can do is, when you go outside at night and you get away from things and it's quiet and you're looking at the stars and you realize, I am a speck of dust riding on a rock through outer space amongst millions of other rocks. Nothing matters, And I think that's the best ego reset you can do. But I mean, how often do we do that?
Not nearly as often as we should. Well, my sister Kelly's like this. There's a way. She lives in Kane, PA, where when you go outside and you actually listen, you can hear the woods. It's not the bustle of the city. So she's probably got a little bit more touch with that than the rest of us do. But yeah, and speaking of that, that's one of the reasons when Lyric came to me a while back. She came to visit me in Phoenix, and she was struggling with some decision-making processes, and not that it was ego that was holding her back from making those decisions, but I told her that she had the answers, that she knew what she should do, but that she was having trouble sorting it out. And I sent her to the Grand Canyon. And it's funny when you're there, like going out into the backyard in Glendale, California is one thing. You can really understand how small you are when you look at stars, but that's unfathomable. When you're at the Grand Canyon, you see it all in front of you. And you know how small you are there. And then it puts it in perspective. It's hard to put into perspective how small a molecule is that can hijack your hormones. It's hard to put in perspective how big the universe is and how far away those stars are. But it's not so difficult when you're in the Grand Canyon and it's all in front of you.
Yeah, and you see those lines in the rocks and you're like, I am just here for a moment.
Yeah, those are millions and millions of years of layers. Jay Brown says, a person can feel any way they want to. I have no problem with that. The person cannot be mad at me when I feel differently than they do. And that's true. That's absolutely 100% true. So Jay Brown, if you want to elaborate, and then he says here, as we continue to fight each other, the politicians keep lining their pockets. Yes, that's also true. 100. And I like what Lori says here. She says, this podcast is a place to have open dialogue with people who are here with open minds and willing to learn the facts and share them with the ones who want to listen. I love that. And if that's true, Lori, thank you for saying so. If that's true, then I feel like then we're really starting something significant here at D-Rex, because I do want people to feel like they can come here, and they might not always know what we're going to talk about, but I hope that they know that what we're talking about, we're going to give them some interesting perspective.
I hope that everybody feels welcome to put their own story in the comments, because we want to know, and we'll discuss it. If you feel like you have something of value that happened to you, definitely put it in the comments. We want to know.
What happened to me that I think has gotten my ego in check is I've been forced to be vulnerable. I can't say that I have chosen to become vulnerable. I think I am much more in touch with myself as a person now since I've been injured. It really does humble you. And I'm forced to spend a lot more time with myself and only myself. So that also forces you to reflect. But Jay Brown knows as well as anybody that I am vulnerable. There's a lot of truths about my life that I can't get around. A lot of truths that cause me to admit, Like it was really dumb of me to chase that monkey, and
Mhm.
now that I did that, it's shined the light on so many other aspects of my life where I've made poor decisions. Like I had it in my heart since the day that not the day, but since Lyric was born, I was headed towards the horizon at that stage of my life. Anybody that was hanging out with me back then knew it was a matter of time before I was gonna be gone with the wind. And then and then I had a life changing moment and became a dad, and I could no longer just take off. And I had it in my heart that once I'd done my job as a father, that the best job I could do, that I was going to pick up where I left off and head for the horizon again. And so I had many, many opportunities throughout my life to purchase property and to put my roots down and just try to grow in a spot. But you know what? I never wanted to do that. I never wanted to. And even though I could have very well bought property and still gone off chasing the horizon, for some reason, the fact that I knew that I wanted to go chase the horizon stopped me from buying property, stopped me from making wise investments, stopped me from trying to, put a plot down and accumulate and grow. Like so many people nowadays are so proud of all their material possessions. And I, by no way, shape, or form am I saying that I regret not getting material possessions, but I do regret not making better decisions when it comes to investing in land, and the the idea that now that I'm so vulnerable and so limited in my abilities and so reliant on others, it throws it in my face that I didn't do more to accumulate wealth. And I didn't try to accumulate wealth because I was just cared about my freedom. I just wanted to, fly like a bird wherever I could go. And
Mhm.
so now that I didn't make better decisions with that, and my life is so much more difficult now because I don't have the financial resources that I should because of my ego. I felt invincible. I was like, if I once it's time, I will eventually settle down and I'll make some dough. And that's kind of what I'm working on now. And I have no doubt in my mind, wealth is not going to be hard for me to accumulate. But it does. I am very vulnerable because of that. Like the truths about me, I can't deny them, and so I'm forced to face them.
We didn't really talk about it, but like the definition of vulnerability is like you are able to be injured, which is kind of, I don't, I should never say the word ironic because I never understood irony. I should never ever mention that word. I'm being vulnerable telling you I don't understand how to use the word
There,
ironic
that it
correctly.
is. That it is vulnerable. Yeah. Admitting a weakness is allowing yourself to be vulnerable, and
Okay.
I think that is a good definition.
Well, I mean, it truly is like you're able to be injured. You're out in the open. You're not defenseless, but you're vulnerable.
You're
I
vulnerable.
just did the thing where I used the word to describe the word.
Yeah. Um,
Okay.
well, when you are mature enough to choose to be vulnerable is when I think you can make strides. And we D-Rex, we know this podcast it's about helping people. It's about getting busy living. It's about these epic adventures. But sometimes it's about just sharing our thoughts and trying to help our audience, see it the way that we see it. And maybe if we can help them see it, and maybe they can chime in and help us see it, because it's helpful when you can talk about things. And when you're vulnerable, when you admit that you don't know, that's being vulnerable. It's the people that say, I know, I know, I know all the time that are just robbing themselves of opportunities to learn. And when you're vulnerable and you say that I don't know, or when you admit that you're weak sometimes, you open yourself up to connections. And we've had whole episodes about how important it is to connect with our peers and to be connected with other people, you know. And so being
I mean, that's
vulnerable
honestly what every podcast is about, right? I mean,
in so
that's
many
that's what's
ways, yeah.
at the heart of this podcast is connecting with others. So vulnerability is an important it's a key topic. And I feel like I was not able to have deep friendships until I learned to be more exposed, more vulnerable. When I would when I was younger, if I would start to feel emotional about a certain thing that I was talking about, I would either stop talking about it or I'd find a way to repress my emotions about it. And I would get really hard about it. And that really wasn't doing anybody any favors. I wasn't connecting with my friend. They weren't getting my true feelings on a subject. And I just wasn't showing how I really felt. I wasn't really communicating. And when you're vulnerable, that's when real communication can happen. It can't happen otherwise.
Right, because if you're putting up that facade and you're not, here's the thing. The truth is, we all are vulnerable, right? We all are weak in some way, shape, or form. We all have a chink in our armor. But being vulnerable is identifying that chink, sharing it with others, and allowing them to show you that even though it's a weak link in your armor, that they're not going to hurt you. So when you are vulnerable with other people and you admit your weaknesses and you admit your where you could improve, you give them an opportunity to acknowledge it with you, and you give them an opportunity to show you that they're not going to use it against you, and that's when you get closer to people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And Jay Brown says your guard is down, and when you put your guard down and you give others opportunities to hit you and they don't, how do you feel about them?
You trust them more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you are surrounded by people that have allowed you to let your guard down and have shown you that they're not going to jab you where your armor's weak, it allows you to stop expending the energy that you normally expend to protect yourself in those places, and focus your energy on your strengths and allow your best version of yourself to shine. When you're expending so much energy putting up a facade, around of what you really are and trying to act like you don't have weaknesses, that, believe it or not, that is a part of your resources, that you're putting towards or that you're expending, not putting where your strengths lie, and as this podcast grows and as we get better at this, accomplishing this mission, and we're going to be out there doing big things, and we're going to accumulate, we're going to attract the crowd. And when we're all together in these places along this 48 more months to go of epic adventures, 47 more months to go. 5 minus 8. So April will be month 8. So
it's math time.
when we get together, and we've had these types of conversations with each other online like this, and then we're out and around each other, we don't have to put that facade up anymore, and we can expend our energy on really accentuating our strengths. And the strength of this, I hope, will be that we are going to help facilitate getting out and doing more. And so let me explain how this can have a cascading effect. Suppose you're somebody that has such a huge ego that you're doing what you do because you think what you're doing is the best thing that can be done, and you're the best at it, and you're so good at it that you're not doing anything else. And a lot of times when we are stuck in something that we think we're so good at that we don't do other things, then we just only do that. And you can get caught in that, doing that 50 weeks out of the year for 50 years of your life, and never go off and never do anything with your life and just do that all the time. But if you can relax your ego, you can open your mind up a little bit to how other people are doing other things. You start stepping out of the box and having different experiences in your life. And that's really what I want to do with this. It's really what I want to do with this is massage people's egos so that they'll relax them, get them on the show, and then help you, and let's get out there and get together, and one of these months to go, and step away from, your grind and come out with us, and be around people that are going to allow you to be vulnerable, allow you to have more experiences. Step out of your comfort zone. Get busy living with us.
I want to play devil's advocate for a second. So here's a question for you. In what way do you think ego actually helps people get busy living?
Oh, well, you know, that's why I made it a point earlier to say that it's overinflated egos that are problematic. Because without ego, I mean, what really is possible? Like without, because ego in a lot of ways is the foundation of confidence, right? And so without ego, then we would be we'd be paralyzed and in fear all the time, and we would be cowering. Like it took a certain amount of confidence for our ancestors to fall asleep at night because there
Mhm.
was predators. We didn't have humans haven't always known how to build homes. We were living in trees, and we were living in trees running from our predators. And what we would a lot of times sleep in masses. We would be huddled up around each other, and it wasn't until we started to learn and grow confidence that our egos allowed us to branch out and become more brave. And so now some of us has stepped foot on the moon because we had confidence. So I think that, I mean, it takes, like, for us to do this, like, we're putting ourselves out there to inviting people to think of things the way we think of them. We're putting ourselves out here. How many times have you heard people say that they had a face for radio? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everybody that's doing a podcast is attractive, and I'm not even saying I think I'm attractive, but it takes some nerve for us to get on this camera.
It does.
It takes
Oh, if
some
you
ego.
guys could have seen when we started this, we were not wanting to get on this camera. We were fighting the camera. We did not. No, not no.
When you recommended, so this whole thing came about to me with Lyric recommending podcasting, and then me running it by you and you saying, no, don't just do podcasts, do live streaming, because everybody's looking at their phones. Think about it. If you only do a podcast, you're only going to get people's ears when they're doing something like driving or working out and only listening. If we really want to maximize the potential, you want to be on their phones. You want it so they're looking at it. And so when I started researching the options, the reason I chose this live streaming video podcasting option is because of that reason, because it gives people something to look at, right? I
Mhm.
was not excited at all about the idea of being on a camera.
And I was not trying to get on your podcast at all.
When you look at pictures of me, I always have the same face. If that's not camera paranoia, like, I make the same damn face in every picture.
What is
Because
it? Do it.
so I'd have to mimic. So if I was taking a selfie, I'd be like,
Okay, wait, here we go. Oh yeah, you do. You do.
like, my cheeks go to the same spot, and I'm like, I hope this works.
Speaking of things you can see, let's go to the comment section for a little bit, because Jay Brown has a lot to say. And I actually like that he's being vulnerable right here, saying he needs to do more stepping out of his comfort zone. And don't we all, right?
Absolutely. There's so much that there's so much to learn when you don't know everything, and man, believe me, I'm talking to myself right now. I have done, like, we all know how I'm a busybody. I can't just chill. Like, if I'm not watching the Steelers, I'm trying to find something to do, and so it's taken so when I got to the point where I was reading, and am reading. And when I read, I don't read just a storybook. I don't read for entertainment. If I'm going to be reading it, just like I don't watch TV for entertainment unless I'm watching the Steelers, and even then, it's a dysfunction. I know it's a glitch, but, like, I don't ever watch unless I got a girl that's chilling with me. Say what up, Tosh. By the way, can't wait to see you soon, babe.
She did.
I know. So unless I'm chilling, I don't like just chilling, watching the TV and having, unless I'm learning something from it. Same thing with reading books. So all of these books that I've read are the reason that I've been able to look at myself and be like, dude, you need to chill on your ego. Dude, you need to get outside and go learn other people. Don't just base your opinion on the inner city that you grew up in, because people are different in other places, and
Mm-hmm.
Adding experience and getting outside of your comfort zone, I think, is the number one way first of all, to humble yourself, because when you're outside of your comfort zone, you're not doing something you're good at. You're doing something that you haven't done before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's humbling. And I really feel like that alone, challenging yourself and getting outside of your comfort zone, I think that has had as big an impact on me as anything that any one thing that I've ever done in my life is like go meet people you don't know, go do things you're not good at, go to places you don't know your way around.
Oh man, speaking of getting outside your comfort zone, when you decided to go write that grant within 3 days, that was some serious stepping outside of your comfort zone. But you saw a bigger picture, and you let yourself be vulnerable, and you saw your weak spots through that exercise. And I would say that's just as good as any stepping out of any comfort zone.
Oh yeah, here's a Mac Daddy, a comfort zone stepping out of. Swede Wells, man, I'm telling you, look, he's my top dog in so many ways. He saved my life. But even before then, I had such an immense amount of respect for this dude. Here's a dude I met who is, several years younger than me, not enough to the point where like I'm his elder in any way, but like a dude that was, just relentlessly brave about just like quitting everything and just going and do something completely different. Like when I met him, he was a contractor in the Marine Corps,
and anybody who's interested in hearing a lot about his story, he was on one of our first podcasts. And do you know the title of that? But you can go back and watch that. He's fascinating.
Yeah. The dude is top notch, and he's done same with Jay Brown. Give them both credit. They've had the balls to join the Marine Corps, and Scott got out, and I know that probably took some nerve to quit that. Once you know that you're in there and you're good at that, it probably takes some balls to quit. And he got out and he put his skills to use in so many other ways. Like I watched him start a kayak fishing business. I watched him go to New Zealand, and I watched him. He's doing this adventurous Alaska thing, and he's like, none of these things are things that give him comfort. I think maybe he's addicted to that anxiety rush. I don't know.
Maybe he's addicted to stepping outside of his comfort zone.
Amen.
Would you like to read this little bit from your fairy godmother?
Yeah, she said, more the knowledge, lesser the ego, lesser the knowledge, more the ego. What's such strong words from good old Albert I. I'm so glad that you guys are here. Good to see you, FGM, Jay Brown, Swede Wells. Thanks for joining us. Not every not every one of these shows are going to be the same. Sometimes we have a lot more to say about our monthly destinations, and sometimes we have a lot more to say. We've got guests coming up. Got a couple guests lined up for next month. I'm excited to talk to you guys about once we get some solid confirmations. But two really exciting guests that I've already got agreements with. Working on a third. Next month, we're going to be in Florida. We're going to go canoeing. Can I get a hell yeah for the canoe trip? So on April 22nd, we're going to go canoeing down Blackwater. I got in touch with them, and they don't start taking official bookings till April 1st. So it's not going to be until then that I can really start doing, making some hardcore plans. But that's the goal, is to be going down Blackwater River in the Panhandle of Florida for our April destination. And you know what I wanted to do? Oh, man, I didn't put together in time. Oh man, I'm gonna do it next week. So Lori sent me some pictures of Schaefer in his Michael Jackson get up.
Well, you guys are just gonna have to wait till next week. That's a good teaser, because I want to see that.
If you don't know who Schaefer is, come back next Thursday. We do this every Thursday, 9:00 Eastern. So when time change happens, as long as you know what 9 Eastern is, then you're gonna know when this podcast comes on. So every Thursday at 9 Eastern, we're going to be here. Once a month, we're going to gitbizzylivin on some sort of an epic adventure. And so please subscribe to our channel. We need those numbers to go up. Please, spread the word for us and let people know that we're doing this. We know that you guys are busy on Thursdays. I didn't expect all my friends to stop having lives on Thursdays and come see us. We're hoping to appeal to the people that are looking to be entertained on Thursdays. So the more people that you guys can invite and let them know that this is going on Thursdays, the more people we'll be able to reach. And the people that are going to stick around and watch are going to be people that are looking at stuff on Thursday. So that way, we want to be able to grow this channel. We want to be able to start generating more revenues to Help Swede Walk Again. All the revenues go to the Help Swede Walk Again organization. And our goal is to help 10 people the way that I've been helped. Identifying stem cells as the option for me and to be able to bring them to other people is what I think is the best way to help. But depending on who gets nominated is going to determine how we help people. But once we are able to help 10 other people, I look forward to the ceremonious day that we get to turn it to the Help Someone Walk Again. My brother asked me the other day, he's like, why do you have it Help Swede? Speaking of ego, oh, you just want people to help you. The explanation is this. The only person that this foundation has helped so far is me. And once I'm able to say that we have helped others, then that's why it's THEHSWA.org and not helpswedewalkagain.org. And the reason it's THEHSWA is because that S, once we've proven that we have helped others, is going to stand for the Help Someone Walk Again. So that's the goal here, guys. We want to grow this so that we can help y'all getting busy living. We hope that someday down the road, the first day of each month, the first podcast of each month, we're going to say, last month, the HSWA generated this much revenues, and so this much is going to go towards the huge party. This much is going to go towards helping someone walk again, and some of this is going to go towards helping you get busy living with us. So we're going to be able to say we generated so many revenues that we have this much money set aside to help somebody come on one of these epic adventures with us, and then we're going to start pulling names out of hats once a month and start getting you guys, the audience, to come and get busy living with us. And so the way that is going to happen is if you are a subscriber to our YouTube, then you are going to be eligible to be one of those names that we pull out of the hat. I'm telling you guys, we're working on this. We're putting something together that's really worthwhile. We just want you to be here, watch with us, share, please, so that we have subscribers increasing so that we can get this thing going, and come back next Thursday. D-Rex, thank you. Thank you for being so awesome at this naturally. You may not seek the camera, but man, the camera loves you. You look great. You're electric. Your personality is spectacular. You're a hard worker. You keep me in line. I could not be doing this without you.
I can't keep you in line, but I think you're doing an amazing job. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us. We're always so appreciative.
Yes, we got more than usual, and next week we want to have more than this. Until next week, always remember, we're all in this together. Always remember, no matter the weather, whether sunshine or rain, there's no joy without pain. So always remember, we're all in this together. Can I get a hell yeah?
Hell yeah.
Great day to be alive.
You can see it when you see me, but you gotta believe me. Ain't nothing coming easy my way. No, I fucking word, but it's a fucking word.